Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Jersey Joe Corner. It is brought to you by Big Heads Media. It is going to be a great hockey season coming right up. A lot of interesting things. Anchor.fm will help you start your podcast and get things rolling. It's going to be a lot smoother when you get the Anchor app, and it's so much easier to navigate. Even their online website at anchor.fm is very efficient, and you can do a lot of great things with it. And I stand by it myself. And I must say, it's time to say, let's go Devils. Also, happy belated birthday to the best national anthem singer in all of New Jersey, Arlette. You have a wonderful September and October and a wonderful NHL season, and let's go Devils.
With the first pick overall, the New Jersey Devils are proud to select from the U.S. program, Jack Hughes.
Let's go, baby!
Lays it across, Vatanen drives, score! Sammy Vatanen let it rip. It's a power play goal, and the Devils have opened it up. Oh, my. Nico walking in, shooting, score! Nico Hischier on the rush, ends it in overtime, and the Devils win it in Montreal.
Hello, Devils fans. Welcome to the Jersey Joe Corner. We are the Double J's. And here's your co-host.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Jersey Jim, as I'm known here on the Jersey Joe Corner. Welcome to another episode of the Jersey Joe Corner podcast. I hope you're out there listening. You know, a lot of exciting news as we wind down training camp. Lots of exciting news going around the NHL as well. So we'll try to bring you up to speed on everything since the last time Joe and I had a pleasure to speak to you.
And so with so much have gone on in the past 5 days, in the past 48 hours, 72 hours, depending on when you first hear this podcast, Taylor Hall and his agent began talking with Ray Shero over the weekend, as per TSN's Darren Drager, Hockey Insider, very reliable source. He is certainly someone that you and I know day in, day out throughout the hockey universe, that anytime one of those big insiders gets some traction, speaking of which, sounds like we might get a deal done.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's still a long way to go when it comes to that, but, things are moving in the right direction. Everybody's happy, apparently, from what Darren Drager said, and Taylor Hall and Darren Ferris. Now, Taylor Hall has said over the last couple of days, hey, guys, look, I wasn't in the meeting. Numbers weren't even discussed, but they're moving in the right direction. Drager, again, said things could happen sooner rather than later. Again, we're not in there. Only the two people that know are Ferris and Shero. And like Hall said, it's secondhand information if he had said anything. So I expect something that come down the pipeline in the next maybe month or two. It could be sooner. Maybe it waits. A lot of speculation on what he wants to do, because he is the biggest free agent this year. And a lot of Devils fans out there are worried that we're going to have another Zach Parise, Ilya Kovalchuk situation on our hands in regards to Taylor Hall.
And so before we get rambling on, I want to kind of explain the situation if and when Taylor Hall does resign long-term. So recently I put out the article from Pucks and Pitchforks that I recently contributed. If Taylor Hall does sign, let's say, $11 million, $11.25 million for 8 years, the Devils will have about $35 million, $37 million before the cap goes up next year from that $47 million mark. And how did I get that figure? Was cap friendly. And this is all the money that comes off the books with guys who are RFAs and UFAs. So it depends on how you reallocate it. Plus, you'll have enough money to re-sign Nico Hischier to a contract, and you'll have Bratt you'll be able to control. So when you get Hall done, it's a breath of fresh air from there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, he's the biggest piece to this whole New Jersey Devils organization right now. I mean, as everybody's seen through the weeks of training camp and through the multiple preseason games, this Devils team looks really good under John Hines, and they're playing really well. And granted, it's the preseason, so you don't want to take records for, take records for what they're worth. They don't mean anything. But the way the team's been playing, they're playing that fast-paced style. They're bringing the speed every night. And, that's something Hall was looking for. As many people remember going back to the end of the season, he talked about how, he felt the team wasn't that good. They needed improvements. Okay, so they go out and get PK Subban, you get Nikita Gusev, you get John Hayden, you draft Jack Hughes, and you can see that he's building chemistry with Hughes and Hischier, and it's good that he's doing that, and they're working well together in training camp. And little by little, his mind is being persuaded. Okay, the Devils are doing everything right now to win now, and that's the kind of mode that they need to be in. Not to mention, you have a guy like Jesper Boqvist, who is showing that he can play in the National Hockey League too. So having depth, just all these pieces is allowing Hall to okay, maybe I need to reconsider what I originally thought. Maybe New Jersey isn't such a bad place to play. Shiro's doing everything that I've asked him to do, so to speak, because, he comes out through the media. And as I've written for Last Word on Hockey about how did the Devils do enough to keep him, look at the moves they've made to keep him. It's, he's one of those players that you want to have on your team, and he drives and he brings everything with the rest of the players on the team.
So basically, you nailed the nail on the head very well in that situation. And also, from The Art of War, I quoted Sun Tzu, and he said one time that to know yourself and to know your enemy is basically the way you can know your team better and know your rival better. Basically, if this team knows itself within the roster, and the roster understands themselves as individuals and as line mates, and goaltenders can understand themselves and their teammates' abilities, as long as they're able to comprehend a lot versus their division opponents and their non-division opponents, they can easily get at least 2 out of 3 games, or maybe 3 out of 4 games of those teams when they square off. Do you believe in that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, this team knows itself better than I do, than you do, than the fans do. They know what they have inside that locker room. And, the shirts that you see the players wear during training camp says earn to be. They're still wearing the New Jersey Devils versus everybody T-shirts. Hines built a culture in there that they got to, protect one another. They have to know how each other is on the ice. And you got to just feel it out. You want guys that you can go to war with, or go to a hard game with. You want to play strong with. You need to have that. And you need to have that brotherhood and mentality. Stick up for one another, because if you don't have that, if one piece of the cord or the you don't want to have that weak link in the chain, if one of those guys aren't buying in, then maybe it starts to spread, and you can't have that. They're trying to build a winning culture back in New Jersey, and you need to have everybody buying in, and everybody is buying in. And that's why you see the training camp this year being so competitive among the young players, among the veterans. I mean, you see, I see guys, hey, maybe this guy could get cut. or maybe that guy can get cut. I mean, veteran players that have been on this team for a while, and they may lose roster spots to the young players that want it more. I mean, it's not to say that everybody doesn't want it, but maybe the young players are buying into the system more than the older players. You just don't know.
It brings a great point. Like, I'm going to quote again The Art of War. It says, "The opportunity to secure ourselves against defeat lies in our own hands, but the opportunity of defeating the enemy is provided by the enemy himself." Do you see that in some of these preseason games, whether it be the Devils Bruins, Devils Rangers? Did you see that philosophy put to use by John Hines?
Absolutely, I did. I mean, look, the Devils, they may have, beat the Rangers both games and, look good doing it. But there were times where they had a lead for most of the games, but they had to find a will and a way to get over it. And, against the Bruins, they did that. Up in Montreal, even though they lost, they showed the ability to come back against the Canadiens. And again, the Islander game, that was a back and forth game, if people remember. I mean, up and down the ice, and the Devils found a way to win. And, again, it's preseason, but if you're going to win those tight games in the preseason, that's a good sign for things to come in the regular season, because last year the Devils were snake bitten a lot in those close games. They couldn't find that spark to get over the finish line, to finish off those games or find a way to win those games. They always fell maybe in a shootout or late in the third period. That's a different Devils team this year. You can tell already in the preseason.
I was going to say, like, I was talking to my boss at work, and I said, how about them Devils right now in the preseason? He's a Devils guy too, and he goes, yeah, but it's only preseason. I said, but at the same time, these guys are fighting for jobs, but at the same time, we're starting to see guys start to prove themselves to not only gain those jobs, but also be on that pecking order to get called up. And he goes, you are right, though. I mean, these are job prospects that are getting ready to get the call up. And do you agree with that statement?
Absolutely. I mean, look, I did, again, for the drop last word on hockey, where you can also find a podcast once we're finished. I wrote an article, just finished up another one on Jesper Bat and Jesper Boquist, just did those two guys. But I also looked at one at Michael Mcleod. And, he's one of those interesting cases there as, center guy. His first in training camp wasn't the greatest. Then the following year he gets hurt and, he's not showing signs of progressing. Well, he took what the coaching staff said to him to heart, and he looked at the video and he looked at how he could use his speed and how he could be bigger. And it's translating into the preseason really well. I mean, he's logged a lot of games so far, and showcasing him for a trade, I don't know. But, now that the Pavel Zacha visa situation is over, Mcleod may stay with this team because Zacha has to go to the A for a conditioning stint. I mean, he just got back today. He's not playing tonight. There's only one other preseason game left before the season starts next week. So a guy like Mcleod maybe has earned himself a spot to start on the opening night roster.
Yeah, and I know Beer Baron of the Let's Go Devils podcast is a big Mikey Mcleod fan, and I believe one time I was tuning into their podcast live, and I said, "Hey, Beer Baron, how about Mikey Mcleod scoring a few points?" And he calls me out and he goes, "Yes, I am very happy about that, Jersey Joe." And I said, "You know what? It's a good problem to have." And you know what? I've been listening to other people, during the season, last season, about Mikey Mcleod not, being tough around the puck in the dirty areas enough and not shooting enough. And it started to pay off dividends now that he's working with someone, maybe it be Kowalski or someone else on the bench. Maybe Eliash is giving him tips. On this next statement, warfare is based on deception. Hence, when able to attack, we must seem unable. When using our forces, we must seem inactive. When we are near, we must make the enemy believe we are far away. When far away, we must make him believe we are near. Hold out baits to entice the enemy. Feign disorder and crush him, Sun Tzu. Do you believe that that philosophy was used enough in the Devils versus Ranger game in overtime?
Yes, I believe it was. I mean, they used it. Did they use it to their full capacity? No. I mean, again, you know, we're talking hockey, but I like to compare it to other sports. And one of my passions is college football. I like the college football and I watch it. And you look at some of these big school teams like an Alabama or Clemson, just to say, you know, the two teams have been a national championship, which feels like for the last 5 years. But anyway, those teams, you know, everybody complains about how them running up the score and running up the score and running up the score. Well, guess what? They're showing the rest of the world, hey, you come play us, we show no mercy. And the Devils, they showed to the Rangers that, hey, we're not going to back down. We're going to fight to the end. You may push us around a little bit. We're going to push right back. And we're just going to keep going and going because we're going to earn the brotherhood out there. We're going to earn that B. We protect each other out here, and we're coming for you. And they got to have that mindset every game to put the hockey world on notice. Every game that this team is a force to be reckoned with, and they're going to be hard to play against. And that's the Devils team that they need to get back to every season. You just can't be a surprise one season anymore. You got to come out every year and show the world, hey, we're here to stay.
So I have a bunch of ideas from the past couple of preseason games I was looking at. One of them being which the Devils made Capo Caco at the Garden look like he was negated, even though he scored 1 point, but they kept him away from the crease a lot, and they were able to hold him to just 1 goal, which I think is pretty good for a big, Jaromir Jagr-sized Finn. Do you think they did enough in containing Capo Caco, and do you think this powerful power forward is going to try and become like a Rick Nash of young?
I mean, look, again, it's the one preseason game, but I like the way Damon Severson was on him, constantly just being the shadow. He was keeping him to the outside. He knocked them down off the puck. Severson was strong, but again, Severson is a veteran. He's been in the league for a while now. Caco, this is his first year. I understand he played against men, but it's different here. Smaller ice. There's not a lot of room to work. Behind the net's a little smaller. You get up against a veteran NHL defenseman, they're going to know how to push you around. They're going to make sure they know they're going to make it hard for you to get to the goal. You have to develop other ways to score goals. And the Devils did that really well against the Rangers in that first preseason game. I liked what I saw from Severson. The Devils defense contained him. Now, we'll see what adjustments both teams make in the first regular season game this year, because that's when we're going to really see Jack Hughes and Caco, because neither one of them squared off against each other in the preseason.
And you talk about these head-to-head matchups for our generation and the generation behind us as Devils fans and whatnot, or just a casual NHL fan or hockey fan in general who's just beginning to watch Devils hockey or something like that. They hear Jack Hughes, they hear Capo Caco. This is going to be like their version of Crosby versus Alex Ovechkin. Do you think there's a little bit of context to that from other external media?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Hudson River rivalry that was there in the mid-'90s, early 2000s between the Devils and the Rangers, where you had, the Devils, in New Jersey, they were always in the shadows of the Rangers in Manhattan. You had guys like Scott Stevens, Niedermeyer, Lemieux going up against Messier, Graves, Richter, just to name a few, Leach on the other side. The hatred there, even in the regular season, those games were fun to watch. And the comparison between Crosby and Ovechkin to Caco and Hughes, it's great for the sport. That's the young guys are going to market the sport, and the NHL was all over Crosby and Ovechkin, and they have another one on their hands with Hughes and Caco.
And do you think with the way the Devils are doing their marketing, being the way it is with, I know we're segueing over into Hugh Weber's successor in Jake Reynolds. He was just talking about fan engagement and further improving that through social media and in other places on their website and stuff like that. Have you been able to get a hold of Mr. Reynolds?
I actually have not been able to get a hold of Mr. Reynolds. It's just been crazy down at the rinks lately. I'm put a call into him and an email into him to get an interview and talk to him to see what other ideas he has in store for the New Jersey Devils. But they are taking steps in the right direction. As our listeners know from the last time you and I were on talking to each other, we discussed the Devils goal song vote and segueing into something else. Don't want to run on a tangent
Don't
here.
worry. We'll touch on that soon.
But they had that, so it's down to 2. It's between 2 of our songs that we talked about last time, Hip Hop Hooray
and How.
So I mean, both I don't have a problem with, both excellent choices. But to have the fans interact on their website, on social media, Twitter, Facebook, and vote for a goal song comes a long way from a team just picking whatever they want and this is what we're playing, and if you don't like it, too bad.
Like I always say is like, we don't need to ever get political about a goal song, but remember, I was just talking with a coworker of mine. He's a big Devils fan. His name is Frank LaCicero, and he goes, we Devils fans got to get it right because we're going to at least hear that song 5 times a game. Do you think, with this potent offense that we have and a very potent offensive defense that, we could have, a Nashville-like atmosphere, but with a twist of New Jersey-tude, Do you see this team exploding with offense, meanwhile maintaining our principle of defense and goaltending?
Yes, I mean, I can definitely see it. I mean, I've seen it already in the preseason. I mean, they put up 4 goals in 3 of 5 games, or 4 or 5 games now. They're playing with speed, skill, but they still have a strong defense. And it's encouraging to see the goaltending doing as well as it is. Blackwood and Schneider, especially Schneider, for a guy who came off hip surgery. And again, fans listening, hip surgery takes time to recover from. And if a goalie is rushed back from it, he's not going to play that well. And he's getting confidence back, and he's playing well. The one thing he needs to stop doing is playing the puck. But again, that's a different story for a different time. But they are playing well. I like what they're bringing: speed, the skill. The goals are coming. Their power play. They're moving the puck. Guys are getting open. They're trusting each other out there, and that's what you need. And I could see the Devils put up 5 goals a night easily. But again, you don't want to get into those races all the time. You got to understand that, hey, every night we're not going to be scoring 5 goals. We're going to have to learn how to win games 2-1.
Maybe 3-2 or 3-1.
Yes.
3-0, 2-0.
Exactly.
No lead is safe in the NHL unless you have a really good shutdown offense or really good shutdown goaltender day in, day out.
Yeah, but even with that, you could see games turn on the dime. I've been watching games. It's 3-0. Oh, yeah, we think the game's over. Boom. Second period, game's tied all of a sudden. Why? Did somebody go to sleep? Somebody miss an assignment? Maybe the other team decided, hey, we got to make an adjustment here and there. No lead is safe. Game's not over till final buzzer sounds. And you got to play full 60 minutes of hockey if you want to win a hockey game.
And this is one of the reasons why, you can never, like as a skater or anyone who plays on ice, no matter what level of hockey, you can never be complacent, and you got to be aware, because when you aren't, outsmarting your enemy or you're not outwitting them, it's eventually going to come back to bite you. And eventually, if you don't follow the principles of the art of war, you're going to lose the war.
Oh, absolutely. And with the Devils, they have to stick to their system. They can't keep, all right, I'm going to relax here for a couple of minutes. Oh, I can relax at this point of the season. No, you gotta go hard. 60 minutes each game. Gotta play hard. It may take 65. It may take a shootout, but you gotta play hard every game because every team is out there trying to win because 2 points are valuable in the standings, and you want to be one of those teams that makes the playoffs come April. You want to be playing into that second season. You want to play deep into the playoffs. And they always say you don't make the playoffs in October, but you sure can put yourself behind the 8 ball. And they got to get off to a good start.
And I was doing the math, like I told you about a few episodes ago, that they need to win about 1.12 to 1.16 points per game for an 82 game span to be able to get that many points to clinch a playoff berth. We all know it's going to be, almost up for grabs. Besides, the Hockey News was talking about the Capitals being the surefire metropolitan team to win. Although it sounded like they were questioning both the Devils and the Rangers, I do see the Devils hunting for that top 4 spot in the Metro because I still think, the Islanders and the Blue Jackets are going to be towards the bottom part because they don't have enough depth in goal and offense. Do you see that as a possibility if that were the case?
Yeah, I think the Devils are going to be fighting for a playoff spot. They have the ability to finish top 3. They really do. This team, the way it's constructed, the way they've been playing, they have the ability to finish top 3. Again, it comes down to goaltending. It really does, and that's an emphasis there. The divisional points is where they struggled last year, and they're going to have to win more divisional games to make the playoffs. And they got to play better against Columbus, Carolina. The Rangers, Islanders, Devils rivalry, those games are always tough. I see the Islanders taking a step back. Do I trust Varlamov? 4 years for a guy that's always injury prone. That's, how are they constructed down the middle? The Rangers, they added some nice pieces, but they still have question marks at their second line center position. Columbus, Bobrovsky, no Duchesne, no Dzingel, no Panarin. They lost a lot. Now Dubinsky's out with a wrist injury to start the season, so that even puts them behind the 8 ball.
From what it sounds like, they could be between 46 points to below 72 points.
Right, exactly. Now again, everybody last year, and I was one of them, said, hey, no Tavares, the Islanders, they're not going to make the playoffs, but they hung around all year and made the playoffs and went into the second round. I see Columbus as one of those teams that can hang around, not necessarily make the playoffs, but they're going to be tough to play against because you just look at the talent on the rest that's on that team, and anything that starts with Zach Werenski and Seth Jones on your back end, that's
and their coach
John
Tortorella is one who can really fire up a team and try and get a bunch of average Joes, no pun intended, to be very useful fighters.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I would be remiss not to mention Cam Atkinson, who's on there. He's, a potential 30 to 40 goal scorer. But then again, look at over what Carolina is doing. And, they're loading up on defense, and Rob Brendamore's still there. Joel Embiid, they just traded Justin
They're
Falk
getting younger
to St. Louis. They get Joel Edmondson. Yeah, they get younger. And now their defense is loaded. And, Edmondson, proved that he can handle minutes in the playoffs. So, now again, their goaltending is, is it as good as it was last year? Because Mrazek and McElhinney were really good for them. We'll find out. Now, no Justin Williams. And from who I've talked to, that has really hurt the locker room because he was one of those guys that kept things together.
Because it seems like on paper that Carolina has a really good bottom 6 because they have Brian Gibbons, who's one of those really good penalty kill guys, shorthanded goal guys. Then you have to think about that Ryan Zingel's not a bad player for a bottom 6 guy, but still, I mean, him being out of the shadows of Ottawa certainly helps him in the relaxed market like Carolina to eventually get his game going.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was tough for him when he went over to Columbus. There's no bones about it. It took him a while to get going. Took Duchesne a while to get going. He was really useful with the Senators, and Carolina found a nice piece in him. They still got Sebastian Aho up front, Teo Teravainen. But again, not having a guy like Justin Williams in the lineup, a veteran, they know how, who's won cups, who keeps things together. It's going to be tough for them. I mean, they still have Rob Brendamore as their coach, so he's going to hold them accountable every night. But he's one of those, Williams is just one of those guys that can, the young players can lean on, who has experience, and it's going to be
when we
missed.
talk about these veterans, back to our Devils, it's great to have Taylor Hall have Jack Hughes' locker next to him. The same way he basically took care of Nico in his first 2 seasons. Do you see Taylor Hall being a really good mentor and wanting to be here long term, being Jack Hughes's his leader and his inspiration, as a teammate and a person in life in the NHL?
Yeah, I mean, it's a step in the right direction for Hughes and Hall, especially Hall, because it shows leadership qualities. And, if he is going to stay for 8 years, 7, 8 years, just say he stays the max, signs the max, you're looking at the next captain of the New Jersey Devils right there. I mean, that's a great leadership quality to bring a young kid, put him under your wing, teach him what to expect in a National Hockey League. He's having fun. They seem to be clicking. It was great to see them play together in a preseason game. It was unbelievable to watch, and that's something you're going to see in the season. Definitely when things aren't working with Heischer and Hall and Palmieri and not clicking. So Hughes could get thrown up there, but Hall's leadership qualities. You'd be like, all right, hey kid, you just learn from me. Everything's going to come at you fast, but learn to slow things down a little bit. Don't rush. He's going to teach him what he went through. It's just a great bond to have. Like, again, going back to brotherhood, it's something a brother would do. A big brother, you take a young kid under your wing, you show him the ropes, he understands what's going on. So it's a great move by Hall, and I personally
think Hall. I think that's a subtle way of Hall saying that he wants to be here long term, regardless of the term. I think when Elliot Friedman said that they'd be underselling, I think it's going to be a good, reasonable price tag per season. That would be both kind of like a discount, but maybe not. But still, it sounds like Hall wants to be here, and it sounds like ownership approves of it, and it sounds like Ray Shero approves of it. I do want to bring up the fact that the Devils really like John Hayden. Can you reiterate on Hayden more from his preseason?
Yeah, I mean, look, Hayden's one of those guys they brought in the offseason. He was traded for Joel Quenneville to Chicago. It's a great pickup. He's a depth forward. Really like what he's bringing on that third, fourth line player. Obviously they classified him as a center, but he can play the wing as well, which really helps the Devils out because he's had chemistry with the Blake Coleman on one side or down the middle, and then they had Miles Wood on the wing. That could be a formidable skill and grind line that you see. St. Louis had one. Boston has one. Those big teams that win the cups, you win with depth forwards. And John Hayden, he's a big dude. The Devils saw something in him to want him to come here in the trade for Joel Quenneville. So there's no surprise that he's sticking around. He's probably going to be on the opening night roster because him and Kevin Rooney, need to clear waivers in order to go down to Binghamton. So I don't know if those are two guys the Devils would want to lose in terms of, depth up front, especially two guys that can grind, guys that can kill penalties and just play hard.
And so recently, on an even more interesting note, I did a poll on Facebook about Taylor Hall. And it seemed that, if you average the numbers, it seemed that Taylor Hall would fetch no more than 100 points, but he would get more than 90 points. It seemed like a lot of fans are thinking he's going to get about 95 points total this season. What do you think about that poll?
I mean, it's a good poll. You always want to, gauge the audience. Again, the Devils fans interactive into what they think, how they see a player, because each fan has a different perspective on what they see the player can do. What did Hall have? What did he have? 97 points in his
in his Hart
Trophy winning
trophy year.
Yeah, so I mean, between 90 and 100 points is not out of the question. I mean, what did he have? 37 points last year before he got hurt. He was on pace for another 90-point season if he didn't get hurt. So, it's a perfect number for him. And if the most fans agree that they can see that. And I saw another poll that you put out on Facebook and Twitter in regards to Jack Hughes. Started to jump around over to Hughes' points production for a second. But I did see that, and it seemed most people were with you and I in this, that he was going to be around the 50 to 60 point range.
Yeah, it is more doable because if you think about it, it was around that region that Nico Hischier had in his first 2 seasons. I mean, you take that sample of Nico Hischier as a center and you compare Hughes as a center, I believe he can hit that. And if I'm correct, Nick Villano of Pucks and Pitchforks put out in his article that the Devils' rookie record was about 70 points. Do you think Jack Hughes can eclipse that with a big year from Nikita Gusev?
Look, it's not out of the realm of possibility to have that, and it would be great for the fan base to have the Devils' young first-round draft pick, Jack Hughes, set the Devils' rookie record with over 70 points. I mean, playing with a line with Gusev and Simmons, he has the opportunity to do that, especially with Gusev. And that seems to be a constant throughout training camp when they do the line combinations, that Gusev is paired with Hughes and Simmons, and that's just a perfect line to have. I could see it. I mean, Gusev is an assist machine, and he's already scored some beauty goals in the preseason, and that was just a great, phenomenal pickup by Ray Shero when he acquired him.
It seems like any time you talk to Marty Brodeur, he always has a good intel. I mean, he did scout the KHL, and he did mention in another article that he actually was very surprised that the Devils were able to get Gusev. Have you watched enough video of Gusev, and have you talked to Marty lately?
Yeah, I mean, like I told you, with Sergei Brilin, he was also surprised that the Devils were able to pull this one off. He's been really impressed. I actually saw Marty the other day. We really didn't have much to quick conversation, just hi, and how's everything doing, just a quick catch up. And I asked him recently about what he thought about the Devils, and he said, he wish he compares them to that 0-1 team that had that skill up front with Elias Arnott and Sikora. Then you had that second line, McGillney and Gomez. And I said, oh, wow, I didn't really think about it like that. But you could definitely see the comparisons with the top 2 lines. And the Devils definitely have that depth up front like the 0-1 team had. Now the defense, they're not there, but they can be like that if the core group stays together.
And I was just listening about how Patrick Elias has a job as one of the Devils coaches. Do you think he will propel Pavel Zacha in his big RFA year that he just signed this contract? Do you think he will perform better now that he has a fellow Czech on this team?
Elias's final game as a Devil, they played together. He idolized Elias. And with Patrick there with the Devils as a coach, he can work with them. He can understand and help Zacha with his game. And having an idol there is really good. Having a guy who could speak a different language is good. They're both Czechs, so he understands with, like, when Sikora was there, there's something to bond over that language. And he's a really, he understands what it takes to win with the Devils and how to improve each season. And he's going to help Zaka along.
And it seems like, when you have a guy like Patrick Eliash around, he can understand the mentality of a young kid who's trying to do his best to be not only a center but a winger. Do you see other improvements in other Devils players, like, for instance, Tennyson, this young defenseman? What do you think of his chances of trying to become the next Devils defenseman?
He has a really good shot to make the Devils this year. When I saw him that he had passed the first round of cuts, I said, "Oh, okay." So I started watching some more film, and I looked at it and I said, "Oh, okay, he's played. He's done his due diligence down in the AHL. He's played there. He's really good positionally. He's smart with the puck, and with the way, I wouldn't say Ty Smith hasn't progressed, enough to make the team. I say that maybe the fact that Hines has been on Smith a little bit more with his comments, and maybe the fact that they don't feel like they need to rush him up. A guy like Tennyson can sneak in and play with the team this year and be one of those call-ups. Say, for instance, he doesn't make the final cut. He's one of those guys that we're going to call up right away if there's an injury. And
we talk about kids, trying to make the cut and whatnot. It sounds more like, if there's a plethora of too many forwards and whatnot, it sounds like, we talked about Blake Coleman or Miles Wood being traded for. Looks like Ray Shear might be getting another left winger. What is your intel on that situation?
Well, I mean, from what I've talked to, from whom I've talked to, the Devils would like to unload the Miles Wood contract. The only reason they signed him the 4 years, the $4 million to the cap hit, was because they needed to get to that floor. In all honesty, if they could have signed him to less, they would have. So they're probably looking to get out of that contract. As far as, Calgary's interest in Coleman, there is interest there. If you're bringing in a guy like Brody, for instance, it's some big money there that, again, if you're going to try to re-sign Taylor Hall, you're going to need all the dollars you can, especially this season, even though it's going to go into effect next year, unless they bring in Brody to move for another piece. But again, he has a modified no trade clause. So that's going to be kind of hard to do if they bring him in. If they do bring Brody in, for instance, then that solidifies the left side of the defense, which is really an area of weakness. But what I've seen from Vatanen playing with Subban, I really like it. Green's been up there a little bit. It's not ideal to have him there with Subban. More a guy like Vatanen is good there. But if you have Brody in there, maybe you have a Butcher, that would be better. So many serviceable wings out there. Again, you can have a guy. You can teach a guy to penalty kill like Blake Coleman. Look, they got rid of Brian Gibbons, but they kept him around for a reason. Miles Wood is here. But don't be surprised if those are two names that get moved in a trade.
Yeah, like I was talking with you about the tougher call to trade. I remember reading on NHL Trade Rumors .me that they were talking about that Calgary was interested in Blake Coleman and New Jersey was interested in TJ Brody. Are there any other left-handed defensemen that are linked to the Devils? And not to go on the subject of Laine, but do you see any other trades that other teams are interested in trading with New Jersey?
The Laine thing is interesting because there's so many moving parts with that. There's I talked to somebody who said, oh, there could be an offer sheet for Line A team could come in. Could that be the Devils? Could the Devils trade for Line A? Okay, and what are you getting now? What are you going to give up? If you can figure out how to give them Miles Wood, that's a win for you. What are you sending back? They need defense. All right, who are you going to give up on defense? When I first saw the trade that was proposed by NHL Trade Rumors.me, they said Boquist
No.
there, and I said that doesn't make any sense. Why would they send Boquist there when they have high hopes for the kid? And then they mentioned a bad contract in Andy Green and Travis Zajac. I said Zajac's contract isn't bad, and by the way, he has a no trade clause. So unless he waives it
To go
back home to win it to Winnipeg, then he's not going to be in it. And I said neither contract is bad. It's just at the time they look bad. Now they look okay. They're not as bad as some other teams' contracts are. I mean, Zajac has turned into a good third line center. Face facts, for what he was paid, he was supposed to be paid as a top 2 center. He's not, but that's not his fault of his own. He got paid for what the market was going to pay him.
And it also seems like Winnipeg is in a huge pickle. They've been in a very big pickle this offseason, going into just like almost less than 10 days before puck drop at the Rock. Dustin Byfuglien being another conundrum that he could be retiring, and Winnipeg could be saving $8 million this season, which they would be off the hook for. Do you think if Byfuglien does retire, do you see there being any moving assets for Winnipeg wanting to get a defenseman from New Jersey?
It all depends on who they want from New Jersey. You look down the roster. I mean, it's tough. You got Carrick, you got Mueller, Butcher Severson. Vatanen is the only guy that has value that they would want because they lost the right side of Winnipeg has been dismantled. You lost Trouba there in the off season. Morrissey's still there, but you lost Trouba, Byfuglien. I'm trying to think of the Ben Sherratt is gone. So, Winnipeg's defense is dismantled. However, up front, say Byfuglien is retired, and we know he's suspended, and he'll stay on the suspended list until he makes a decision. But say, for instance, he retires. Well, now they have money to sign Connor and Laine, but both of which are in totally different situations because Connor wants a long-term deal. Laine wants to get paid now, but he wants a shorter-term deal. How do you work them out? Is Laine's days numbered in Winnipeg? It's so much moving information. I think one gets done before the Jets come to the Rock next Friday. If I had to guess, it would be Kyle Connor.
Who would get traded?
No, who would sign before they visit. And then I think Laine would be the one that get traded. But then again, both could get done. I mean, we hear, the latest on Rantanen, on Laine and Connor is that Laine and Rantanen they're far apart, and Connor's the closest one to signing. That could change in an instant, as we saw with Braden Point, Mitch Marner, and Matthew Tkachuk. Point last week was he ain't going to be ready. He's not going to be at the season. They're so far apart. Boom, done. Tkachuk, another one.
$7 million
far
per.
apart. Not $7 million. Both guys get $7 million. And then both guys, Tkachuk and Point, get $9 million in their last year of their 3-year bridge deals, which their qualifying offer would be once they hit the open market. So, those are wins for the players. So you don't know with these negotiations how long it's going to take. But if I had to guess, I would think Connor's done before Laine and Rantanen.
I'm going to recorrect myself. Dustin Bufflin is suspended without pay this season, which gives Winnipeg a projected cap space of $23,50,836 American. So it looks like, Kyle Connor's going to get maybe about $7 million. I don't think Laine is going to get $10 million because he underperformed last year to his standards. But I do think he can get moved to New Jersey, or I also heard the Islanders or anyone else in that realm. Do you think the Devils can use this kind of leverage to get a player like him while he's on the cheap?
Yeah, I mean, they can get a player like that. I mean, look, you signed Nikita Gusev for 2 years at $4.5 million. Be like, okay, here you go. Go prove it that you can go play in the National Hockey League because he wanted to get paid. Laine, he's a perennial 30 goal scorer. So on that alone, you got to pay him around the $5 million range. I know he's looking for, the big deal with like the Marner money, but you notice that it seems like the Leafs have their own accounting style, and then there's everybody else where the bridge deals become a factor. And, if I was guessing, because the latest I heard on Laine was that, the Jets have offered around $6 million over a 2-3 year bridge. And so that would make sense. And that's something the Devils could work with if they were to negotiate a trade to get Laine. And Rantanen, they're far apart as far as the last I've heard from anybody on that. So, Winnipeg seems to be where everybody's looking at.
And do you think, the Devils could trade one of their defensemen and maybe Miles Wood in a package and maybe help Winnipeg out and get, someone like a Laine, and then maybe still have some cap space left over? I mean, when we were talking about that whole Marner Hall theoretical trade, that would have been like the Devils would have had about $14 million at the time. Do you think something else might happen cap-wise before opening night?
Well, I mean, like the cap is set at 82.5 this season. From reading Elliot Friedman's 31 Thoughts, the league expects it to be at 84.5 next year. That's without the NHLPA inflator being applied because of the escrow situation that the players can use. As far as right now, the only thing the Devils could really do, like I said, is with, if Zach is not ready, they could put him down a conditioning stint, but they still have to put that money on. A guy like, you say Bufflin, he's suspended, and, if he decides to return, that really puts Winnipeg in a bind. And I think that's why they can't do anything, because they're waiting for that decision to come down, which it seems more and more likely that he's going to retire. Because I believe Bob McKenzie reported that the papers are done up, but they haven't been officially filed yet for Bufflin. He's mulling it over, but it seems like his mind is not there, and that's an Andrew Luck type situation. The Devils could definitely, everybody gets that reference. They know what happened. Luck retired during the preseason NFL. He just said he couldn't deal with going through the injuries, and there comes a point in time when you don't want to. And the Devils do have defense that they could give up. However, you're in win now mode, and do you really want to sacrifice a guy like a Vatanen to get a Laine? And where would Laine fit in the Devils, rotation of forwards? Because it feels like the Devils' top six is set, and a guy like Laine, as much as he's great to have, you could have the same problem he could have in Winnipeg, where he's not playing the minutes he expects to play and play with the guys he wants to play. with because he's stuck on a third line.
And so when we talk about the way the fan experience is going, that fans have this this vibrancy towards opening night from the moment the Devils got Jack Hughes with the logo flip at the draft lottery. What is everyone else outside of the Devils realm saying about what they had seen from the past preseason games and whatnot?
Well, you know, up in, what was it, when the Rangers were in town, and they played, especially they played against Henrik Lundqvist, when Jack Hughes had that beauty of a goal, you know, he said, look, this kid's got skill. And a lot of people around the league say, watch out for the Devils. One man in particular, who I spoke with when I was in Vermont, PJ Stock, he says, you know, Jersey's one of those sleeper teams this year that you got to watch out for. And, you know, they're not an easy team to play against anymore. There's no easy outs because teams are improving. And the Rangers saw it. Boston guys I talk with, hey, you know, it's Jack Hughes kid, he's special. There's a different feel around the Devils right now, that they're not the same they were last year. And the Devils are up in Boston tonight, which can be streamed, believe, on NHL.
NJD.TV.
Devils.com. Yeah, NJD.TV is going to carry the game for those in the region. But we do not get Matt Loughlin calling the game. It'll be the Nesson feed.
The Nesson
so
feed?
You can put the game.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
I get the 2
feed.
homers.
Right. So you can put it on mute if you want, or put it on low, or you can put it on the game on the network, whatever. But there's a lot of buzz around this team. You know, people that I've spoken with, you know, just like I said, there's just a different feel around it. You could tell, you know, Islanders, you know, Barry Trotz, who's like.
Well, I have nothing against the Bruins guys. It's anytime I listen to MSG with the Rangers and they get the control over the Devils Ranger game, I always like to mute the Ranger commentator, Sam Rosen.
Yeah, I mean it's tough to listen to the homer, the broadcasters, just because it's national guy. There's always, you know, and then when the Devils do play the Rangers on the MSG, they talk about, you know, Ken Danico's always get thrown in there, especially when they're at MSG. Luckily, when they were home, they had the home feed, but then Joe Mcleod's there for the Rangers, so there's always some consolations when it comes to that.
It's the one thing when Dano's not on there, and it's like, oh, this is Sam Rosen and Joe Mcleod. We're gonna have Mika Zibanejad come on in the first intermission from MSG, and you know, it's one of those things that I find very eerie.
Well, it's speaking of, yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's like, you know, Andy Brickley, Jack Edwards, they have their own feel for Nesson. You know, they, you know, people understand what Edwards brings because they know he's a homer. You know, speaking of the interaction, you know, you saw, I believe everybody, hopefully fans saw out there on Twitter today, the MSG, you know, trying to get whatever brand is, you know, MSG Devils, MSG Rangers, MSG Islanders, first to 1,000. So followers, since they just set up new Twitter accounts for each team via the MSG network. So that'll be cool. More fan interaction for Devils fans out there. Remember, Devils fans, get out there.
Yeah,
and follow MSG Devils.
I actually like the fact that MSG did a Devils version, which, you know, gives us a fair shake for once.
Exactly. I mean, look, far too long. And you and I have discussed this off the podcast via Twitter messaging and text, that it would be nice if the Devils had their own network again. If they had, like, they were with SNY or they were with, instead of MSG. So, you know, just because they just don't get a fair shake.
It just seems like if this experiment on the NJD.TV works out very successfully, streaming on YouTube and whatnot, it seems like if they do have a testing ground for a possible network, seems like Jake Reynolds and Hugh Weber have a really good idea for a long-term TV contract.
Yeah, I mean, that would be great if they had that.
It also seems it's not too far-fetched now, because I feel more fans like something more, engaging. We talk about the being included in not just the devil side, but also the Prudential side. When you go to a game, tell everyone how you feel when you go into that atmosphere.
All right, so there's two different atmospheres that I've gone into when I go to a game. There's the media aspect of it, where, you're up in the press box, you're in nice clothes, can't cheer, you analyze the game, you write your story, get your interviews, and you go home, and you have interactions with the people there and the players especially. Then there's the fan side to it. And it's different because it all depends on where you sit in that building. And then this is just me personally. Other people could have had different experiences. But it's so cookie cutter that the chants aren't really the same. There's too much of an echo. Upstairs seems louder than downstairs. It's just like a little class system, and we're all not the old building. Now, again, that's me residing in Bergen County. I, still hold a little grudge. It's in Newark. It's a nice building. Wish it was still in East Rutherford. It'd be easier for me to get to my house. Other than that, it's just, it's just a different element there. But, fans are still the same. It's cool. People are cool. There's a little bit more, there's passion there still. But when I was speaking with Hugh Weber, I don't know, a year or so ago, ran into him down in when I was going in as a fan one night. Wanted to watch the game as a fan, and a security guard came up to me and said I was going to normally where I went for years to go watch warm-ups, take my pictures, and the lady's like goes to me, she's like, "Oh, you can't go down there." I said, "Can't go down there? Why?" She's like, "Oh, well, you have to have a ticket there, so you can go over there and go down." And I said, "Well, why? I've always done this." So Mr. Weber, I was walking by, and I said, "Hugh," I said, "what's going on? What's the policy here? New policy with warm-ups? Why?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, this lady here's telling me I can't go down over to where I normally do warm-ups." And she's like, "Oh," and so I started getting in a little tizzy. And I said, "Look, to be honest, we're not the Montreal Canadiens. Okay, we can't." And the Toronto, I'm like, even in Toronto and in other places, I can go down, walk wherever I want, and go watch warm-ups. I said, "Why are we putting in strict policies?" He's like, "You know what? Guess you're right." I mean, so I don't know if, he just let me do it and go down, but I still do my thing for warm-ups. Everybody complains, but most of the time you just go down where they tell you and just walk over because it's warm-ups. I said, it's warm-ups. I mean, no one's who comes here, sit and watch warm-ups. I mean, come on.
I will.
So
you go ahead right there.
So to me, it's like, come on, let's treat the fans the way they're supposed to be treated, like fans, and let them interact with players during warm-ups. Because if you see it on the Devil side, the whole side's like filled up. And then you go to the visitor side, and, we got to be strict about things. And it's like, why we got to be strict? It's people want to interact with the players. It's warm-ups. Just let us do our thing. We'll go up to our seats. And it's just that feel at the building. Again, it could be me and my bias. But it's just not friendly enough. The fans are friendly. Fans are great. It's just the staff and certain staff, I guess, just not as friendly, because I've gone to a lot of buildings around the NHL and the staff is great. I first walk in, "Hey, how you doing? Answer any questions for you," all that kind of stuff. So again, just different dynamic to us. And I guess just because New Jersey.
Well, I was gonna say like anytime someone from the Devils listens into any of the podcasts from any Devils fan run podcasts, they start taking notes because we not only the fans but also the writers and whatnot. We want to market the team in the way we want to improve. And with these improvements, it seems like the way they up the lofts, the new area that used to be the gold bar. I actually enjoy that spot even in intermissions, and I see that they do have a bit of it's like a mini suite that they have for people who do have a ticket for those spots. Have you experienced the new stuff before you've gone in, for preseason?
Yeah, I actually was up there snooping around and checking things out up at the lofts, and they're really nice. The mini suites up there, and the gold bar was nice up there though. It was fun, but the suites are nice. Those lofts, and it's going to be good for fans who can get a ticket in there and enjoy the viewing from there because it's a good spot. It really is. It's a good spot to watch a hockey game. You're going to see a lot there. It's just nicely done up, and they did a really good job with it.
And another thing I would have to touch on from 2017 to the present day is that the Devils have done such a great job in preserving the New Jersey products and services. Like, for instance, you and I know about the craft beer companies in New Jersey, like Kane and AP Brewing and Carton Boat. All those are now sold at the Prudential Center. They actually have designated spots. Have you noticed that lately?
Yeah, I did actually. Just they're spread out along the concourse, but it's really good to have New Jersey-based businesses in Prudential Center. It really helps out. Just keeping everything Jersey because as they're one of their oldest mottos I can remember is Jersey team. I think that's going back to like 2010. That's how long I've had that window sticker on my car. I really like it. Jersey's team. Well, it really makes sense.
Yeah, it's as much as we can also call it, Jersey's team, we also have fans who are expats and we have fans that live abroad who, tune into the games and other podcasts as well. And it seems, that this brand is growing and it's starting to thrive, not just in, one state or a couple states.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, I've met when I was in Toronto last year during the Hockey Hall of Fame weekend for Marty Brodeur. I met Devils fans from everywhere. I mean, not just from Jersey. I mean, a lot of people from New Jersey made the trip up. I mean, during the Q&A, all I heard was this guy from New Jersey, that guy from New Jersey, this person from New Jersey when they're asking questions to Marty. But I met fans from, there were people from Canada who love the Devils, people from Europe that love the Devils. There was somebody I met from Australia like the Devils. I said, "Oh, you got hockey down there?" He's like, "Yeah, and the Devil logo is really cool." I said, "Oh, okay, that's cool." So, it's, hockey is worldwide. And, when the Devils are successful, it's good. And fans flock to a winning team. And let's say people are bandwagon jumpers because they're not. But you have your diehard Devils fans, and then you have those that, okay, Devils are good this year. Okay, another team. But the real fans out there that have those old jerseys on, they know. You know who they are.
And another thing is, when I was listening to the Ray Shero, Joshua Harris presser, Josh Harris made it public that the Devils sometime this season are supposed to play a game in China. Do you remember when I contributed that article about the Devils having games marketed in China?
I did. I remember we discussed that about a couple-minute discussion we had on the show, actually. And you mentioned that would be great for the Devils to have be exposed in the Chinese market because, that's one place that hockey wants to be. And to be one of the first there and have your market and have your name and your brand there helps you back home because it gives you a fan base abroad.
Imagine just getting 1% of, let's say, $1.6 billion people in that population, that would be a tremendous grab for this growing brand internationally and, day in, day out. If we can successfully be a successful franchise, and maybe we have more people learning both English and listening to new podcasts based on the Devils themselves.
Well, yeah, and that would be great to have, maybe our podcast once they're there, or maybe even before that, where we could promote, hey, the Devils are playing a game there, could be translated into Chinese, because I know you talked to me about having it translated into other languages, because that would be great, help not only our brand, but get the Devil brand out there as well. Marketing yourself is key. Having a winning product helps. And if the Devils can keep Taylor Hall before they go play that game in China, just gives them another face to market over there.
It's certainly, like, I believe if Taylor Hall listened in to what Josh Harris said about, playing a game in China, especially with the Olympics coming up, and I believe you want to have some of these players play internationally in China to market some of your best players. And just think about it. You have, Hall for Canada, you have Jack Hughes for USA, and you have possibly John Hines coaching, or maybe someone else doing that job. You have this brand, this idea being put to work, and it could pay near and long-term investments.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, to have a guy like Hall on there, to have, you have Hughes there, you have a Heishier, you have a Boquist, you have an Andy Green, you have a PK Subban. They go play Subban. Forgot to mention him, the way he markets himself, and to be attached to Red Bull and to be attached to Lindsey Vonn, that's good for him and his image. And, the players definitely want to go play in the Olympics when it's in China. The league is marketing themselves to go to China and to be there for that Olympics. The players want that in the next CBA. That's a point of interest for them.
And another thing is, like, we see a lot of Chinese advertisers, sponsors for the NHL and the NWHL, which have proven to be very vital in the growth of the sport. And do you know anyone from those companies that might be interested in investing more in not just the Devils, but everything, in North America?
Well, I know for a fact that the Chinese would like to get, over here, not over here, but market themselves in the way that they were able to market themselves in the NBA. I personally don't know anybody in them companies that do that, but from reading the tea leaves, and by the way, I do drink Chinese tea. It's really, really good for you. It is really good. But they do want to get into the National Hockey League. Look at what the NBA has done for them. They're over there playing games in China. Yeah, NHL's, spattered a little bit in there. Just a couple games preseason.
The KHL too.
KHL's there. Now we have, what was it? I just read, who was it? I forgot what team. It literally popped on my newsfeed the other day. The captain for Team China is playing in the NWHL this season. I just forget what team it's for.
Captain of NWHL, China. Yeah, I'm just Google searching that right now.
I know. I just saw it the other day.
I do know that they want to expand the league, and also on another segment, I do want to. Oh, it's Yu Bai Wei, captain of China's national team, joins. It's YU.
Look at that. That's a step in the door.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look right there. You see, you have the national team captain of China is coming over to the United States to play in the NWHL. I mean, that's a great foot in the door right there. Build
She
relations
has
right there.
joined the defending Isobel Cup champion Minnesota Whitecaps of the National Women's Hockey League. She is 31 and is the highest scoring defender in the history of Chinese national team.
So, I mean, look at that.
And it says here she competed in the 2010 Olympics in Vancouver and was one of just 3 defenders on China to earn a point in that tournament.
That's saying something because that was a loaded tournament that year.
And there's a quote from Minnesota's co-head coach, Rhonda Engelhardt. You is a hard-working, tenacious defender who loves to compete. She is eager to continue to improve in the NWHL, and we know she will come to each Whitecaps practice and game ready to go.
So, I mean, like the Chinese, they're hardworking. We know this. That's a great mindset to have when you go into hockey because you need to work hard to get results on the ice. And, the NWHL continues to break so many barriers and bring in so many different players. And it's good to see the league is still around. Big proponent of women's hockey. I've always supported the game. Doesn't matter, men's, women's, kids. Doesn't matter. Hockey's just fun.
You need growth
everybody.
all around.
Exactly.
And to add more context to this, it says you played in the CWHL the last 2 seasons with the Kunlun Red Star and the Shenzhen KRS Vanke Rays. In 2018, Kunlun Red Star advanced to the 2018 Clarkson Cup final. She scored a goal in both of her CWHL seasons, finishing her career with 7 points in 56 games.
I mean, the CWHL, another great league. It's unfortunate that it folded and they couldn't sustain. But you play in a league like that. I mean, a lot of top players are playing up there. Hillary Knight being one of them, Natalie Spooner, Marie-Philippe Poulin. That was a fun league to watch.
I may be a little
And
biased because
the NWHL.
because I'm close to the Riveters on this one, because of the sisters that helped Team USA, the Lamoureux girls that helped Team USA win gold against Canada. Sorry about that, Canada, but that was a good game.
That was a great game. I mean, I know I was talking to people that weren't even hockey fans telling me, did you see the women's game when they beat, Canada in the gold medal? I said, did I ever see that game? I said, that was one of the best hockey games I've ever seen in my life. I mean, that was a great game. Some of the women's games are better than the men's games sometimes. So like you said, Riveters, hometown team over here for the NWHL. So, it's great hockey. If you have a chance to go out there and see the fine female hockey players play, go do it. It's definitely worth the time and your investment. And most of the time, was it Sunday games? Sometimes they have the games where they team up with the Devils. They have, it won't be as easy now because they don't play out of the hockey house. But sometimes I would be able to go to a Devil game and then sneak over.
And then they have
game.
the games on Twitch now that they're going to do live.
Yeah, so that's good for them. They have a 3-year. I think they have a 3-year deal with Twitch to broadcast games, and each team has their own broadcast team for Twitch. So you can listen to. The Rivers are playing Boston. You can listen to Rivers broadcast team, or you can listen to the Boston team.
And either way, I mean, the Devils owners started, doing this partnership with the Riveters and being their first, ownership group, and these guys believe in, growing these brands from other, professional leagues like the NWHL and getting youth on both sides of, boys and girls, etc.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a shame that the Devils had to end their partnership with the Riveters, but the former New Jersey Devil is now head coach of the Riveters and Randy Valachek, so you know they've got a place to play now, and he's a great coach and a great player, and but these women, they deserve your support out there, and you got to go see them. So, it's just fun hockey to watch. And, just the fact that the Devils made time to partner with them, is a step in the right direction. Again, unfortunately, things didn't end great. But, hey, you saw an Isabel Cup champion play at the Barnabas Hockey House.
And it's great to see, a team that was based in New Jersey win in New Jersey. And for me, that was I got to see the replay of that game, and 1-0. That is a nail biter. We talked about nail biters earlier in the program about the Devils having to hold a lead and win a championship is another story.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great game to watch. I had to watch it online. I couldn't get down there for that game, but I watched it online, and it was a great game to watch. And it was good to see those ladies win. I knew a couple of the players that year on the team, and it was just it was good for the sport to have the Riveters win. Buffalo, again, another worthy opponent that year.
And so one of the things that I'm thinking about going forward with the Devil season is that before every game or whatever we can touch on before those games take place, we get some ideas of the roster and all that. And, of course, our fans can also send in questions. And anyone who wants to sponsor the show, you can sponsor us on Patreon or, even better, through Big Heads Media, and tell them that you want to sponsor the Jersey Joe Corner on there. Do it through Twitter. Anyone that wants to do it, we're proud to accept that. It's also great to have our fans follow us on Facebook and Twitter at the Jersey Joe Corner. Also, send us your questions for upcoming podcast episodes, and if you have any other ideas you want to send our way, either Jim and I will answer them right away.
Yes, we will. We will definitely answer them. The last time we did that, we had great interaction. To your questions, I got to them. A couple of my friends' questions tonight as well. They were from last time because there were so many great questions that were sent my way in regards to, the Devils and outside New Jersey as well around the league. I'm sure Joe got plenty of questions on his end as well. But we want to have a lot of interaction on the show. We want to make the show fun for you. We're bringing you Devils hockey, before, after, maybe even live sometimes. Who knows? I mean, we will be seeing each other at games. So we might have a quick interaction, be like, hey, all right, that's a good idea for a show. Or we want to talk about this guy. What did you see from this game? Maybe you saw something that I didn't see. Bring it out there. We like to bring the analytics in as well. Your analysis is really, really appreciated.
Also,
bring it. Questions, comments, concerns.
Also, one of the things I like to touch on, if someone like a Tyler Dello wants to talk about analytics and entertain our fellow viewers and whatnot, because I am a fan of Moneyball, and I believe in the money puck era, and it's a great thing to have. And also, if anyone from the Devils wants to come on the show, you're more than welcome to, whether it's me on here one day or it's Jim on here doing the interview. Hey, it's all for the love of the podcast and the love of the fan base and growing the brand.
Absolutely. We're going to reach out to some people. We're going to have some great guests lined up for you. Maybe, we'll bring in the fantasy aspect of, for you fans out there. I know a lot of you Devils fans and hockey fans like to play fantasy sports, fantasy hockey. That's a big thing these days. Maybe some daily fantasy if you're into that too. So we're going to bring you a lot of good things this season here in the Jersey Joe podcast. It's just, we're going to bring the interviews whoever wants to join us, please come on. We don't bite, so we're going to bring some hard-hitting questions, but, it's all in fun. We want to hear your thoughts. We're looking to break down this team. Maybe, everybody's part of the community. They got different Devils podcasts out there, hockey podcasts, and we just want to bring, something different. And
like for instance, some other podcasters for a Devils fan run podcast might be just broadcasters. Some other guys just might be, just a few guys that just hang out and whatnot. But we're the guys that, are a mixture of fans, contributors, and guys that go to games as people that also write about them. So it's important that, our listeners and consumers give in to something that they really want more out of. And we also want to eventually build a website, depending on what happens with Big Heads Media, because I spoke with them earlier today to see if we can do our own website or they can do a website for us, depending on what they say within the month.
So that's good. I mean, look, like I said, big things are coming. We'll be happy to help you. Just come along with us on the ride. It's going to be a fun ride. Devils are starting up 9 days, opening nights next week. Joe and I are definitely pumped up for it. If you haven't heard it in our voice already, we're ready to go. I mean, the season's here. I mean, preseason is preseason, like I said, but regular season starts next week. Puck drops. That's when games matter. That's when points matter, and that's when we break it down even more. There's still one more round of cuts for New Jersey Devils, so keep your eyes posted and your ears tuned to the Jersey Joe podcast.
Well, we're also hashtag We Are the Jays, not JAYS, but just J, like JJ.
Just the letter J. We are the Jays.
Because it's Joe and Jim who are your fellow hosts on the show, and we just want everyone to be included, and we want you to feel like this is your second home away from the Prudential Center. And if someone wants to leave us an email or something like that, digital message us, it would be great that way, because either Jim and I will be very happy to touch on if it's something that would be looking into.
No, absolutely. And I'll read those. Joe will read those. We'll go on. Maybe we'll have some Twitter interaction, Facebook interaction, and we'll take your questions. We're ready to just bring you the best Devils coverage all season.
And if
long.
someone has someone who translates for them in English, or they're writing to us in another language, I'll be happy to use Google Translate.
Oh, that'd be great. And those who have issues with the Google Translate, sometimes it doesn't come out great. You want to have a friend who knows English, give us a call. If you want to bring a translator on, that's fine too. We're here to have great content for you, and season is just right around the corner. I know Joe's looking forward to it. I know I'm looking forward to it. And, there's probably going to be one more episode before we get into the start of the season, because we got those roster cuts coming up after the next two preseason
And then
games.
we have to get our party mode out of us, because once we get to our press box, there's no cheering for us. Sure, we may do a little fist pump action, but I don't think we can get anything above that.
No, yeah, what I write down when I see a goal is yes on my notebook, or I'll make a little tick mark in my pad to be like, all right, that was scored. And then after, when I get home, you talk with your friends and you're like, oh yeah, we won tonight and all that stuff. When you got the eyes on you, you got to be professional.
Yeah, it's how we do it, but we're going to be networking. Don't be surprised to find us on LinkedIn, because we are part of Big Heads Media. We also have our own podcast through them. So if anyone wants to reach out and be sponsors and whatnot, patrons on Patreon, hey, you can start as low as $1.
Yeah, every penny counts. Literally, every penny counts.
And if you think about it, to our fellow fans, we're trying to build as much content to build and give you the best content back. And we want to reach out to other people like, like a Matt Laughlin or maybe a Julie Robenheimer, something that might be a little bit more interesting for our fellow fans.
Definitely. I mean, Matt has done a great job. When you see him in the hallway talking hockey, he loves to talk hockey with the fans. He loves to talk hockey with pretty much anybody. He's a great guy. He's a nice guy. Julie, I've gotten to know. She's great at what she does. One of the best in the business. She brings a different perspective. She looks a lot at the prospects. And so, when the Devils make their cuts, she can help us with prospects because she loves to travel all over the United States and the world to follow these prospects. She's everywhere, and she's really good. Maybe we get, like I said, maybe we get somebody on there to talk some fantasy hockey for us as well.
I might know just the guy, being Chris Wassel.
Chris Wassel's great. He's a good guy. He has a lot of great fantasy tips for those of you out there that follow him on Twitter.
His last name is spelled Wassel, and his first name is Chris. You can find him on Twitter. He's very easy to understand, and also there are other people out there that follow the podcast that might be higher rankings than us. So if you see some of our followers, they might be average Joes or they might be the big guys. So anyone who wants to do more and looking in for, questions and whatnot, we'll be supporting this thing going through the whole season and try and do something in the off season as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. My goal, off season right now, it's far ahead, but my goal is to be in Montreal for the 2020 NHL draft. It's, be perfect. It's a perfect spot with the prospects, especially that time of year. So that's where I want to be. Hopefully we get a live show from there.
I would like to get up to Montreal, especially with the draft. I do know the fact that it's supposed to be the Alexis Lafreniere draft, and
it is.
And he's, of course, the Rimouski kid. And who else came out of Rimouski as a QMJHL boy was Sidney Crosby, or some people call him the crybaby.
Right, Sid the kid, even though he's not a kid anymore. But it's going to be fun. I might another goal of mine is to be over the World Championships this year, so check out that. Lot of good things coming. Keep your eyes posted on Joe's articles as well as my articles. Lots of good stuff. Every week once the season starts, I do a analysis of the Central and Metro divisions in my NHL notebooks. Just quick blurbs of what I feel each team has done during the week and where they can improve, how they can improve, and what you can expect going forward.
And it's going to be a fun season. Last year, I was asked by my brother-in-law how I felt about the team. I was pretty optimistic, but I wasn't as positive as I was last year. This year, he asked me the same question. I said, there's a lot of really good things going around, and I just feel with the way that kids like Hughes and Heischer, I didn't mention all the names, but I just said, there's a lot of great things going around the team and the organization that I feel it'll feel like a Mardi Gras year,
Yeah, somebody asked me the question, where do you think you see this team? And I said, well, to be honest, I see them, contending for a playoff spot. And I'm always optimistic with the Devils. Some years are hard to judge. But, there's a different feeling around this team this year that they want to go out there to prove that they are a team that can compete. They can fight for a playoff spot, and they're going to do just that.
So, yeah, anyone who is 2020 draft prospects, we're going to do our fair share of notes. And I already have 2 of the 31 possible players in my notebook already. And if you have any more questions about those things, I'll be happy to investigate. And Jim will compare notes with me on the podcast in another segment. So we'll do that later on. And before we hang up, we got to say this is Jim's first time as co-host if you just tuned in late. And this is going to be a really good season.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be fun. I mean, I've been on here as a guest, talking about the Devils. Now I'm a co-host. Felt good. It's a good first show. We had no technical difficulties.
You there, Jimmy?
Last time, which was good. That was a good start.
Jimmy, you there?
So I am here. And on that note, when I say no technical difficulties, there goes the mic. But unlike last show, this was a great start. This was fun, and I can't wait to do it again.
I can't wait to do this again. And just to let you know, fans, you can just tune in later through YouTube. I don't know about SoundCloud just yet, but a lot of other podcatchers out there. Anchor.fm for sure. YouTube is very easy. If you're on the train or whatever, they have it on captions in English for the time being. And if you have any other requests, we will make it in to Big Heads Media.
Yes, we will. And don't forget, the podcast can be found on Anchor.fm. It can be on Spotify.
That is
Is
correct.
that right, Joe? So Spotify, Anchor.fm,
Breaker.
I'll be posting the links on Twitter at Jim Behringer, on my Facebook, on my LinkedIn. So you want to hear the show again, it'll be there. I'll be writing a little synopsis tonight on Last Word on Hockey to link the podcast as well to discuss, just to give you a few breakdowns on what we discussed today. And then you can listen to that for the rest of yourself. And so it's going to be good. And like you said, just keep bringing the questions, keep bringing the discussion, and we'll be ready to go.
And all right, fans, we are going to wind this down. And thank you for tuning in. Have a great evening. Let's go Devils. And Jim, you say?
Woo!
Let's go Devils.
Let's go Devils.
All right, peace out.
Peace.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.